85,000 boys and girls here have missed a tenth or more of school during the current academic year. That's according to figures from the Department of Education. Now, there are a whole range of reasons for why these children become absent from school. But school-based anxiety or emotionally based school avoidance is an issue that is becoming more and more common. In simple terms, it's when there's a feeling of acute anxiety or fear in young people about going to school, and it just makes going there an impossibility. Well, let's speak to the Children's Commissioner, Chris Quinn, who's with us now. I mean, you've been looking at these figures.
Yeah.
First of all, are you surprised by the number of people we're talking about? The idea that we've got 85,000 pupils missing a tenth or more of school. And as I say, it's not just about, personal circumstances. There's a whole range of reasons for some of that, but it does seem like the school-based anxiety is a big part of it.
Yeah, look, that's correct. 85,000 children, that's an awful lot of empty desks. If we think about that in the context of a school classroom, we're talking about 3,100-ish classrooms that are empty at any one time. I heard Beverly speaking earlier, and she's been very brave talking about her personal circumstances, but she did say, in her opinion, the school system needs to change, about how she has been in limbo and needs more help. She talked about lack of support and long processes for diagnosis for her children, and I would totally agree with that. So I'm hugely concerned about the unprecedented and continued high absence rates, and I have had little reassurance that this matter is being taken as seriously as it should be.
What does that mean? So you've talked to the authorities and you don't believe that they're taking it seriously?
Look, this has been an ongoing issue. As Brona Stars quite rightly pointed out there, we did see changes. We've seen unprecedented numbers and a rise in those numbers post-COVID. And whilst the Department of Education have been looking at this, I think more needs to be done. So, for example, in 2021, we had a really successful programme in primary schools called Healthy Happy Minds. And it provided counselling support and therapeutic intervention for children. It had huge success rates. That service has been cut. Other vital services have been cut. We've seen how the Educational Welfare Service and educational psychologists are under huge pressure with resources being pulled back. So what this means is that parents, carers, children in schools are under huge pressure, and we have large numbers of children who are being denied their right to education.
Yeah, although you could make the argument as well that, it is about trying to prepare children for school as well, and that families have a part to play in some of that as well. Although it is worth saying the Education Authority says 4,120 children with the highest levels of absenteeism are currently referred to the Education and Welfare Service, but more than a third of those have not yet been offered an appointment and are on a waiting list. So for those families who are trying to help their children, they're just sitting on a waiting list, and that must in itself be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, look, the impact of this is devastating for families and children. I would argue that families need more support, absolutely. And the impact in real terms, the amount of parents and carers that I have met, mostly mothers, but fathers as well, who've had to leave work like Beverly to care for their children, children who can't attend school for different reasons, such as bullying, mental health, anxiety, the pressures that children are under and families are under is huge. So we need to address the issue through early intervention, but crucially through listening to children and families. We want to understand more we want to get behind this data. We want to understand the voice of the child and the voice of the parent and make recommendations to government, because we can turn the tide. I've seen personally how, in one example, a child's school attendance in the last year or the year before was 30%, and through the right support and interventions, that child's attendance is now up to 99 and 100%. So we can turn the tide if children and families get the support that they require.
And you mentioned Beverly, and I think it's fair to say with her two children, it is more complicated because they have been diagnosed with autism.
Yes.
And there may be some people asking this question about school-based anxiety or emotionally based school avoidance. some people might be asking, is that a term that we've just come up with? Is that something that is really, that you can diagnose? Is that not just children who do not want to go to school for some reason? And there might be reasons underneath that. It could be the fact that they've experienced bullying. It could be the fact that they're finding it pressured in school in terms of keeping up. There might be a whole range of reasons for that.
Yeah, well, there was a research paper that Cara Hunter got commissioned in the Assembly on emotionally based school avoidance, and it looked at alternative provision and education both locally and globally. So this is a phenomenon that is not unique to Northern Ireland, and it definitely is something that affects children really acutely. You know, it's debilitating. As you heard from Beverly, her children physically couldn't go into school. I've seen this with my own eyes, the effect that this can have on a child, and I think we need to ensure that we remove the stigma here. And you know, there are many 85,000 children we're talking about who are struggling to attend school. And as you've said, there are a plethora of issues, but in terms of emotionally based school avoidance, experts like Brona Stars and others are seeing this as I think she said, about unprecedented numbers, a tsunami of children suffering from this right now.
Now, the Department of Education also makes a point that as you've just made, that it's not unique to Northern Ireland. And they also say, though, which I find quite interesting, that attitudes towards regular school attendance have changed since the COVID-19 pandemic, and that some children face challenges that make regular attendance at school difficult. Now, they say that regular attendances have actually improved in the last 3 years, and that help is available through emotional health and wellbeing programmes. But do you think COVID has played a factor in this?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, and this is something that we want to delve into deeper. I will be contributing to the UK COVID inquiry in the next few months, looking at the impact that it had on children and continues to have on. As experts have already said, that we did see an impact in terms of the situation getting worse. But, you know, the mental health of children and young people has definitely dipped as well. So yes, COVID-19, in my opinion, has had an impact, but we want to understand that more through our research.
Chris, really appreciate your time. That is Chris Quinn. He's a Children's Commissioner. I should say as well, somebody's contacted us, Karen has contacted us, saying that there are places that can help them. For example, they're a charity in Ballymena who work with young people with EBSA. It's called Progeny Education, and they say that they can help with people who are unable to go to school. There is